Hey everybody, this is the Xbox Series X. It's big, but it's not that big. You soon get used to the form factor. First things first, there's not much in the box. As you can see, it's just basically the console, a bit of paperwork, a HDMI cable, which is a special cable because it's faster, and a power supply. The easiest way to install it is using the Xbox app, because then it talks to the app and gets it all connected to the network for you, so you don't have to do that manually. Of course you can do it without the app, but it just speeds up the process, so that's one thing I'd recommend doing if you've got the Xbox app. So as I'm speaking now, there aren't really many new games that you can test out for it, so I've been playing old games. And the big thing I've noticed, there's actually three major things I've noticed in the difference between the Xboxes of old and the new ones. Now, I've had Xboxes for quite a long time. I started off with the original Xbox with a big cross on it, then Xbox 360, Xbox One S, Xbox OneX, and now onto this one. So I think I've had them all, to be honest. And the big three things that I noticed different about this one, firstly, is it's so quiet. It just literally, apart from when you're loading a disc and the disc when you're installing the software, but when everything's installed on the machine, there is just no noise. And it's my PS4 at the moment, I think it does need cleaning out, but it just fans are going all the time. You can even hear it over the top of your headphones, and that's never a good thing, and especially if you're not the only one in the house, This one is just super silent. It's just great. The second thing I want to point out is that it's super fast, and you don't notice that so much in games as in the way the game plays. You notice really in the way it loads, about 5 to 10 times faster than the Xbox OneX. That's really down to the SSD that's in there. The SSD just is so much quicker than a spinny hard drive. And when you're looking at games like Grand Theft Auto, where I think on the Xbox One X it was about 1 minute 30 to load up, it was only like less than 30 seconds on this one, so that's a big time difference. The third thing I've noticed is the frame rate you're getting in games. So I play a lot of Apex Legends and games like that, and you really notice the frame rate difference, especially when you're in like a battle with other people. It's all live, and Xbox, even the Xbox One X would drop frames when it was a lot going on, and this doesn't. It stays at a steady 60. Now in the future, if the software developers make an improved version of it, of course, then it will possibly run up to 120 frames. But even now, 60 minimum is a lot better than, say, what you're getting on a normal console. Now there has been a few comments about heat. I've not really noticed anything particularly different. Obviously you notice it in some ways because the heat's coming out the top rather than out the back. So obviously you're more likely to sort of feel it or go over it to lean over to switch it off or something like that. So you're probably more likely to notice the heat, but to me it's not been excessive at all. I've not had 12-hour sessions or anything like that, so I can't comment on that, but certainly after 1 or 2 hours of gameplay, there's nothing which I would call excessive or anything to worry about. Now the Xbox Series X comes with a new controller. For all intents and purposes it's very similar to the old one, but the old one was always a great controller anyway, so it's not really a big issue. I would say there's a bit more texture on the underneath where you hang onto it. It's got a slightly more grippy feel. There is a share button now, which there didn't used to be, and they've changed the design slightly of the cross button on the left here, but apart from that it's very similar, very familiar feel to it. So, should you buy the Xbox Series X? If you're looking for next generation graphics and the whole step up from current Xbox, then now probably isn't the time to do that. I would wait and see what new software comes out, new games which are really going to take advantage of this machine. If, however, you're a regular gamer like I am who enjoys using it every day, it's a really good, just the things even now are really important. The silence, the fast loading from SSD, and those really good frame rates that you're getting in those kind of games. That, to me, that is worth it just for that alone, let alone the next generation of things. So it depends on what situation you're in. But everything I would say about it is positive, and it's only going to get better. Okay, so that's why you should or shouldn't buy an Xbox. But what about, should you buy a PS5? Well, I haven't got one yet. I've got one coming in this week. But one of the major things Xbox has got which PS5 doesn't have is Game Pass. Now, Game Pass is a fantastic thing. It's really like a Netflix for games. And PS do that as well, but I don't think there's as many games on there and they're not as good. Microsoft, of course, has just bought Bethesda, so they've got Fallout and all the catalogue of games they've got. You've also got now on there, just from last week, all the EA games. So we're talking things like the footballs, basketballs, Battlefield, all those now free to play on the Game Pass. And there was before that hundreds of unique and original games. Some of them are quite old games, admittedly. So if you're on the fence and you don't know which console to buy, I would definitely weigh up the sort of Game Pass aspect of it as well as the console, because it really does make the content different, especially when like you look at a new PS5 game which is going to be at £70. Having the Game Pass and having hundreds of games on there which are good, even if they are previous generation, and some of them will be next generation, then that's something you definitely need to consider. Obviously there's exclusives for PS5 which you won't be able to get ever on an Xbox, but that's the balance. And of course, if you're like me and like both of those things, then you have to buy both consoles, but that's another story. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.